Tap, tap, tap on the microphone. Is this thing on? Desktop audio. Here we go. Hey, everybody. Jen, Brandon, Amanda. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Oh, it's
It's
that time once again. Monthly edition of the Windows Insider Webcast. Excited to be here. Looking to the chat, as always, just making sure the audio is going through and video is showing up okay. I'm excited. We got another fun topic this month. And on top of the webcast, today was also the start of Build. So there's all kinds of fun and excitement happening all around the world of Microsoft. If you are a developer, or you know a developer, or you want to be a developer, or anything along that scheme of things, this is the right time for you to be paying attention to all the goodness that's coming from Microsoft. So if you haven't heard of Build, do a quick search, Microsoft Build, go get registered. There's tons of content that's available. There will be replays of all the sessions. There's lots of real-time interactive stuff. Go visit the Microsoft handle on Twitter. Go visit Microsoft's website. There's tons of links to information on there. And I'll do a recap of all this at the end of the webcast again. But I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that that was happening in case you hadn't heard. So, with that being said, let's get back on track because this is the monthly Windows Insider Webcast. Yay. March of 2022. Where is this year going? It is flying by. As usual, I am your host, Jason Howard.
It's May. It's not March.
Oh my gosh. See, and this is why they don't put me on Build doing presentations because I can't even get the month right, okay?
You got the letter right, so I guess that's...
Hey, yeah, it was the M word. There's no more M months, right? I can't mix it up with something later in the year. So let's try that again. May of 2022. And so let's get this party started. I am Jason Howard, host of the Windows Insider Webcast, part of the Windows Insider team. I know you've seen me around, but I couldn't do this without the glorious cast of characters we have here with me. We'll go clockwise around the horn, let other folks introduce themselves. Jen, you are up next.
Hi, I'm Jen. I do feedback stuff, and I have a special guest who may or may not enjoy being a special guest.
I would not enjoy having my arms flapped around like that, but I guess that's just kind of how it goes sometimes. Amanda, how's it going?
Going good. I'm Amanda Langowski. I'm the head of the Windows Insider program, and I'm excited to be here and see what Jason mispronounces next.
I'm already getting grief from my boss. I love it. That's what makes these things fun. I apologize. It looks like my camera's kind of blurry. Hold on, I'm going to do a little hand test. Oh, there we go. See? A little focusing problem. All right, Brandon. And Brandon, I'll let you introduce yourself, and then I'm going to ask you what's that fancy thing behind your head on the wall.
I'm Brandon LeBlanc, Senior Program Manager on the Windows Insider program team. I get to write a lot of the blog posts that you see from us about the builds that we give you. And yes, behind me is a Surface Hub, and I programmed it to have the Star Trek user interface. And it says my ready room, so I'm nerding out because I'm here in the office today.
Oh my goodness! I will say I knew what was on the wall, of course. Earlier this week in one of the meetings, he was flipping through, and we were on Flight Ups talking about promoting a build and whatnot, and he had it in red alert status, and it was flashing on the screen. It was so much fun. Anyway, thank you all for the introductions. So the topic. If you had seen in last month's newsletter, we announced the webcast, but we didn't announce the topic. We ended up announcing that both on Answers Forum as well as on social as we in the run-up to today's broadcast. Today we're talking about Controller Bar. Hopefully those of you out there who've been keeping up with the Insider program and the builds that we've been releasing, hopefully you've heard of Controller Bar and you've seen it. Maybe you've tested it out. But if you haven't, today is the day to get your learn on. So with that being said, let me bring on the Controller Bar team. We have 4 fantastic guests. Let me get the transition over.
Hey, Jason, real quick. So
yeah,
I put the blog post in the chat for the Controller Bar blog post that we did a few weeks ago. And then I just want to do a public service announcement to those that are on the chat. We have no intention of announcing any new builds today for either dev or beta. And so just to make sure that we're clear, like no new builds are being announced as part of this. So that's all I wanted to say.
Always good to get the housekeeping done.
Yep.
Well, as you can see now, the four of us that were on screen are along the bottom, and our four fantastic guests. We were chatting before this, and I called them the quadfecta. These goofy words that I make up. I can't get the month right, but I can invent words. So that being said, let's take a quick moment to run through and have each of the guests introduce themselves. Each one of these folks have worked on the controller bar in one form or another, which you are going to learn about today. So we'll do the same thing, work from left to right. Andrew, if you could take a moment and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. I'm Andrew Glass, and I'm a product manager on Windows team, and I focus on input systems, so controller bar, accessory input. That's something that I like to spend time on. So this has been a fun project, and look forward to chatting with you.
And from what I understand, this is one cookie jar of many that you have your hands in.
Got it. Yeah. There's a lot of ways you can do input on Windows, and I like to try them all. Yeah.
All right. Next up, Dorothy.
Hi guys, I'm Dorothy.
I'm a designer
on
on the Windows team,
and
I have been working on PC gaming features all up, and this is one of the features
I'm really excited to share with you guys. Happy to be here.
Excellent. Next up, Janaea.
Hey everyone, I'm Jania Henderson. I've been working on Xbox gaming as a product manager for about a year and a half, and super excited to be working with the controller bar feature crew, and excited for you all to engage with us further today. So
excellent. Thank you. And Jasmine.
Jason,
Jen.
quickly, the chat says that there's an echo for the guests.
Let me double check everything.
Just heads up.
Okay. Problem solved. I know exactly what it was. Thank you for catching that. And apologies. All right. And last but not least, Jasmine.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jasmine. I'm working from the Xbox team, also working on PC gaming, specifically within the Xbox app and on Game Bar.
Awesome. So I know as we were prepping for this session, we were talking about different content that you wanted to show. There's a lot of really cool stuff that has gone into this effort. Everything between the premise of the why behind the feature, how it connects in with Game Bar, the designs that went into this, right? And that's why we have so many guests on today to kind of cover the various aspects of this project, what went into it, a bit of the life cycle, and so on. So as we get started here, would you like to just pop into the presentation, or is there any other intro information you wanted to cover before we get going?
Cool. I just want to say thanks for having us. I'm so excited, and I'm so stoked to be here and to talk about such nerdy things like gaming and overlays. This is so great.
So let me throw out one more thing, and if you want to go ahead and get the presentation ready while I cover this one other tidbit here, it's as part of the Insider program, we get to see a lot of stuff show up in Windows, and if you've been around the Insider program for a while, we used to do not only we have these webcasts, we also used to do an audio-based podcast. We've ceased doing those, right? There may be a season 3 in the future, but who knows? But it's been a while since we talked about anything gaming or Xbox related. I went back and actually looked, and it was actually April of 2021 where we had a couple folks from the Xbox side of the house, and we actually talked about some of the early development of bringing Xbox gaming onto PC, the accessibility of it, accessing games, things like that. And so I'm going to take a quick moment. If anybody would like to listen in on some of that historical content, I'm throwing a link here in the chat so that you can bookmark that for later on. So that is there. So I will now, to Jasmine and crew, I will turn the microphone over to the four of you, and let me know when you're ready, and I will bring the presentation up.
Awesome. So if you've ever tried to record your screen with controller bar or with Game Bar in general, you know that that's completely impossible. So we've made a deck, per Microsoft standards, and I'll go ahead and share now. But yeah, so sorry that we can't show you the live demo. It just would not work. You'd just see a desktop the whole time, and it would be bad. All right, I went ahead and clicked the button. Let me know whenever it shows up.
All right, it is live. You are good to go.
Awesome. So first up, we were going to, I think we were going to try to play video in the PowerPoint. Jason, is that okay?
It should be. Yeah, give it a
Right.
whirl.
Awesome. So I'm going to hand it over to Jania first to talk about, to run through this video really quickly and just kind of give a walkthrough of how the product works.
Sounds good. So when you pair your controller, the controller bar will be invoked and you can navigate to your selected game. Once you navigate to your selected game, you'll be able to open the game bar within the game, and we allow for easy access for switching between game bar and the controller bar seamlessly. So that's essentially the whole process of what we're offering you all with the controller bar.
So up front, that seems pretty straightforward, but I highly doubt that the work that went into bringing this to life was quite as simple as, covering it in the course of about 60 seconds of describing the feature. So
exactly.
I would love to hear a little bit more about the background, how some of the functionality, the integration with Game Bar, whatever you are willing to share, we would love to hear.
Yeah, sure. So for those of you who don't know, there's this gaming overlay that has been designed. It's an overlay specifically for gaming, and we've worked a ton over the last few years to make sure that it's really, really easy to get into and out of different social experiences, check your performance, or record a video directly while playing the game. So if you're playing something that requires you to have a game continuously running, and you need to make a quick change or make a quick reply or shut down a process that has started, Game Bar is the place to do that. There's also capture, video recording, and a ton of other different added pieces here. In addition to being we're specifically focused on talking about controller today, and that's where we've been. But you can open Game Bar with WinG as well. So feel free to go ahead and give it a try now. But yeah, it works either way, but we're really excited to have more functionality here. And like I was saying, with Game Bar, we really focused on the task switching focus, the task switching options in the past, but we didn't really have a game library available for PC. And we know that there are continuously more and more people, millions, Andrew likes to say, of passionate PC players who are actively using a controller more and more. So we want to make sure that while we do have this new input coming in, it's not really a new input. We just want to make sure that it's as seamless as possible to get back into gaming and access everything when it's most necessary.
Thanks, Jasmine. And also, what is controller bar? So controller bar, we really wanted our users to be able to hop into their latest games and also hop into the launchers that they use from day to day with their controller. Previously, we didn't have a way to quickly get into games via controller. So we really wanted to make sure that our users had this capability. And we received a lot of feedback once controller bar was previewed that a lot of people enjoyed being able to play, get into their games from their couches, things that they couldn't do before with the controller for PC. So really excited for this, and we'll get into the next slide.
Yeah, so I'm gonna dive a little bit into the design process. Like Jason was saying, this feature is pretty simple, but it took a lot of iterations and a lot of thinking to get to this point from the design team. So the first thing we did was when looking at the form that this menu could take, we looked at existing experiences first to see where we could align, which could just promote more familiarity with how people use Windows. So we drew inspiration from the pen menu, which appears today when you connect a pen, and it shows kind of like a tool belt of apps that you might need when using a pen. And so we wanted controller bar to work the same way as kind of an accelerator with the apps that you need when using controller and gaming. So if you go to the next slide, zooming into the actual anatomy of the controller bar. So like Jasmine and Ginny were saying, the goal is to help you get back into gaming quicker. And so the top ways that we can help you do that is to show first your most recently played games, which is inspired from the console homepage where you can just jump right back in. And also an aggregate of all your gaming launchers in case you want to use any of those features or discover a new game. So we kind of put those all together for you. And then there's also an entry point back into the full game bar. And here, one of the biggest decisions that we had to make was, what is controller bar's relationship with game bar? Should it be a standalone experience tied only to input like the pen menu, or should it be related to game bar, which is the gaming tool belt that Windows offers? And so the kind of the logical thought process we went through was like, controller bar is a gaming accelerator, and it is related to game bar, and then game bar is the kind of gaming toolkit that Windows offers. And so controller bar does add value to game bar by providing like a library of games, and so it should have connection to game bar. So we decided to kind of mash these experiences together. If you go to the next slide, this is kind of like the decision tree that we built out for this experience. And so we also realized that there are different needs for the accelerator when you're outside of a game versus when you're in the game. Since controller bar is now tied so closely to game bar and invoked using the same buttons, we wanted to make sure that we were showing you the right things at the right time. And so this accelerator helps you get back into gaming, but when you're already in a game, there's less need to launch another game, and you might want the full game bar instead. So when we were building out this decision tree, the main changes we made to the existing experience were in that moment of controller pairing, that is a strong signal of gaming intent. And so this is the best time to show controller bar instead of the full game bar. And then because Windows is hard to navigate with a controller, when you press the Xbox button outside of a game, we show controller bar, which prevents you from having to move through all of Windows with controller input. And then, as always, like if you press WinG with your keyboard, we're kind of like assuming that you're playing with mouse and keyboard, not your controller, and so that will still launch game bar. So this is kind of like an overview of the decision tree. And now I'm going to hand it to Jasmine to kind of talk about the iterations we went through.
Can I take a moment to throw something in here real quick?
Yeah.
Like, I just want to say this real fast. Like, the amount of teamwork and thinking that has to go into something like this. On if a person is sitting at their computer and they're doing X function, their intent is likely follow on action, right? Or if they hit a button on the controller or they do this keyboard combination, it's like, which input method are they using? And I can see Andrew smirking on his camera already, right? It's like, which input method are they using? What are they trying to accomplish? What do they want to do next? Where should we take them? This whole process, right? The decision tree that we were just showing on screen is kind of the waterfall of what happens as you take physical actions with your input method. But to even get to that point, you have to have done user research and design studies and understanding functionality, what's available in the OS, how does the controller interact, all of this kind of stuff. It goes into what is that process going to be? You click this, this is going to be the result. This is what a user's trying to go through and do, kind of as I mentioned just a moment ago. And yes, it's one thing to use the product as an end user and be like, hey, I would wish it would do this, or, you know, I like the way that it functions, and you send us feedback and we take that into account for the next product cycle and things like that. But even on the first run of a product, and something that seems straightforward, like controller bar, the amount of design and planning that goes into it, I can't underscore this enough for the viewers and listeners out there of just how much work goes into something like this. And this happens all across the scope of Windows, all the features that come in. You take this depth of work and multiply that across all the different experiences that you get across the operating system. It's the magnitude of it's even hard for me to describe, much less possible for me to even encapsulate, in proper words and I don't know, just to voice that appropriately. So anyway, I don't want to derail too far, right? I have this knack for kind of going off sidetrack here, but I just want to give you big props because this is one feature. It's a microcosm of what happens all across the OS, but without careful and thoughtful design and research and all the studies that go into this, even a feature like this wouldn't have landed the way that it did with some of the... Wait till we go across some of the comments that are showing up in chat. If you want to feel good about yourself, today is that day. So anyway, let me get you back on track. Jasmine, I'll turn the mic back over to you.
No, I think that's a really good point. Like, we used user research throughout the entire process. And so how we ended up at this decision tree was we actually did a user study on some early, what we call prototypes. So those are just designs that have been made into PNGs, and we run people through them. And we make sure that people, we understand what the context is in game versus out of game. And that was Jessica Shalik and the Xbox research team who were really supporting us along the way. And we were all learning every single step of what is the interaction? What do we think that people would expect? And when we're this is just a snapshot of all of the different iteration and paths that we took to be able to get to this point. So there's any possible way that we could have actually made controller bar more seamless. I don't know if there is one. We wanted to make sure that every mouse and keyboard interaction was still in use, because Game Bar is a really great place to be able to take a really quick screenshot or capture a small video for whatever reason. And we know that that is a very, very common path, whether that be on desktop or in a game or elsewhere. So we wanted to preserve everything that still is good about Game Bar while introducing such a really great functionality for controller. And that's where Dorothy and I spread out every single interaction, and we used ice cream cones to talk about how many oopses there would be. And it was amazing. And we worked for quite a long time just to make sure that we had the right interaction and the right imagery and the right setup. So when we look at the way that Game Bar is now, this was the product of a lot of different steps that had gotten back there. And I think that there's still feedback that we can take from the community as this continues to roll out. But it was really an amazing project to be able to work on with this particular team, and to know that we're actually helping more people find the games that they want.
Hold on a second. I want to go back to the ice cream cones comment. This is the stuff that I find magical and fascinating about Microsoft, is the creative and ingenious ways people come up with working with each other and talking through design concepts and planning things out. I'm not attempting to put you on the spot. I don't know, maybe I am a little bit, but can you explain the ice cream cone thing? I'm totally fascinated. I would love to hear more about this.
Okay, so we one of the iterations that we had a relative, it was seamless for controller, and it was controller first on Windows, and then we came back because we had to separate ourselves from what currently exists to be able to make something new. So then it went into, well, how would controller do this best? And Dorothy and team had this amazing, great flow where it was just effortless for controller. And then we went, oh, hey, what about WinG? And that introduced a lot of friction. And we knew that whenever we're talking about multimodality, there are people who have a controller next to their keyboard, and then a mouse, and then maybe a Stream Deck or something that they're moving between so many different options. What if it's just a controller and a laptop? How are people interacting? And so the ice cream cone Dorothy had brought in from her team, and they were oh, this is how we say oops. and we just marked each individual comp with an ice cream cone to be like, oh, that's not the greatest moment there. Dorothy, do you want to talk more about how your team uses that?
Just to clarify, like I don't think you can see the ice cream cone, but what it looks like is like a dropped ice cream cone, so it's like upside down and it's like all over.
Oh, so it's flipped. Okay.
Yeah,
it's
like and we use that picture.
That makes a lot more sense. I love ice cream.
not ice cream. It's like a oopsie, I dropped my ice cream moment. And we use that graphic like elsewhere sometimes, like for error states. But yeah, we wanted to just keep it fun, and we thought it was really cute. But what we use the ice cream cone to evaluate, it was like so what you see here is like, Jasmine, if you go back to the previous slide, where we're like showing all the comparisons. So each row here is kind of like evaluating the experience. So we like created a flow that covers like every single moment in this experience, and we drew out like every single moment. What we did with the ice cream cone was like we looked through the flow and saw where there was like an experience gap, like maybe like you intended to do something but instead like the UI did something else, or it took like an extra step for you to get there. When we see that, we kind of call that like an ice cream cone moment. And so you can kind of see it like kind of scattered across the comps. And the way we kind of like narrowed down to the leading model for this experience was looking at like the shortest way to do whatever like task that you were set out to do. So yeah.
So let me ask one more question while this slide is still on the screen. So there's some of them that I can see that had one ice cream moment. This is absolutely brilliant. I'm completely fascinated by this. And there's a couple of them that have 5 ice cream cone moments. So did you say, oh, the one with only one ice cream moment, this is kind of the way we should invoke this and let it function? The 5 cone moments, like, and it's probably the wrong way? Or are each of these different functions that you said, these are individual actions folks are going to do, and in the outset they were too complicated and you found a way to simplify them later on?
No, so these models like don't kind of work together. So these are completely separate models, and the ice cream cones on the left hand side, you can those are just like, those actually aren't related to the ice cream cones, like the number of ice cream cones in the float. It was kind of just like our way of like grading each flow. And so the one ice cream cone moment means, oh, this is like a pretty seamless like experience, and the 5 ice cream cones means that like it's a really bad experience.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, sometimes it would also be that like we had to make a trade-off. Like, where is it that we're really willing to put friction for somebody to get into and out of a game? Is it that we go against, like, is it that we change, basically, like, not go against, but change the Xbox game bar? Or, like, are we creating new patterns that we're asking people to learn, and are those patterns difficult? And so then whenever we go back and review, like the one at the top here, the top 2 that had 5 in them, I don't even remember which ones these were, but they were just like, oh, key moments in the flow would have been like really frictionful and really annoying for players. So then whenever we look at, oh, well, would it be a little bit more challenging to, let's say, use WinG to open the controller bar? Like, because that is a way you could say, oh, as a player, I prefer to have my MRU, or like my most recently used games right there, the games that I already had. But what we found through user research was that that's not what people wanted, especially with WinG. So then we came back and reevaluated and like made sure that we were doing exactly what it was that people wanted, and then evaluated our comps again based off of that.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and move on to some of our final slides here. And Andrew, I think that you were going to speak to this one.
Yeah, that's right. So thanks for all that went before. I had not actually come across the ice cream stuff, so you shielded me from that depth. So thank you for that. So yeah, one of the pieces that I love to drill into here is the MRU, the most recently used apps section, because as we've been saying, the design for controller bar is really deceptively simple. We've really, as you've heard, gone out of our way to try to find how to make this simple and hide all the complexity. And I remember seeing a quote on one of our walls at one point saying, designing something complex is easy, designing something simple is hard. And so that really encapsulates this controller bar from my point of view and my experience. So huge kudos to Dorothy and to Jasmine and the design team that got us here. So to drill into the MRU, this is again, on the technical side, another place where we're hiding a lot of complexity. It's so simple in concept. You've got this state which changes based on whether you're in a game, and you're going to capture the game and stick it in your MRU, and then it's just going to be there for you to click on and launch it and play it. And that sounds great. And then you need to think about, how does Windows work, and how do we know it's a game or not? And how do we know when a new game comes out that that's a game, because we've never seen it before? And so there are some interesting challenges in there that we had to go solve and find and adapt existing solutions and make sure that they work for us. One of them is, how do we know that you played that game? And how do we know that when you played it, you played it enough? And does that belong in the MRU now? And how quickly should we refresh that MRU? Because when you're going to push that the Xbox button on your controller, you want the controller bar to appear instantly. You don't want to be waiting. And if we've got to go off in the background and check the status of the MRU, that's going to take time. And so do we delay the showing of the controller bar just so that we can get the freshest MRU to you? What if you played a game and while it was open, should we refresh or not refresh then? So there's a lot of decision making that goes back into this just simple thing of showing 3 game tiles right there. And then one of the stages that I love in product making the most is you get to the point where you're actually, we call it self-hosting. You're running the experience, you're sitting at your desk, you're going to press that controller button, you're going to launch it, you're going to be seeing it and playing games, and the games are going to start showing up in the MRU. And at that point, that's when you experience some of the hidden challenges and some of the technical things that we couldn't have anticipated in advance. But only when we start using it ourselves do we actually experience it. There's something difficult here that we have to go solve. And so one of the things that we found with quite a few games out there, great games, they have multiple separate processes that are running, and those separate processes are all identified as games. And so when our system runs and says, oh, that's a game, put it in the MRU, it actually identifies 2 or even 3 of those game processes. It's actually the same game, and they all go into the MRU. So you wind up with 3 different tiles all for the same game. And so we have to think, well, that's not the right experience. That's not what we want to show to our users. But how do we go solve that? A similar challenge along those lines was when you launch that game from the MRU, and then the game is going to start, it doesn't start properly because there are quite a few games out there that have a dedicated launcher that needs to be launched first in order to have the game work. And so we only discover this when we're actually trying to play those games and see that there's an extra step involved. So the technical side of that is we have to sit down with our dev team and think through, well, okay, we can solve this for this one game, but how do we solve this for thousands of games? And how do we solve it for the games that haven't even come out yet? And make sure that whatever we put into place will work today and it will work in 6 months' time. So these are fun technical problems that we love to drill into and just find the best.
And what I'm hearing is that you get to game for work.
Oh, yeah. That's
the best part.
The best part, absolutely. So along those lines, I want to shout out to our dev team who also got to play games for work. And I want to just mention them, fantastic team of folks, Hayden and Lauren and Ted and Stephen and Ben and Mark and Ayush. We had a big crew working on this, and a lot of work went in, and they did a fantastic job.
Again, all that work that happens behind the scenes, and so many folks that put so much time and effort into bringing these features to life. And, you know, they may not be on screen with us here today, but it's nice to see you spreading the love, because there's a lot of people that put a lot of hard work into bringing this to reality for Windows Insiders and, you know, beyond when it releases to the public.
Definitely, yeah. So I think we have just one more slide. Let's go to that. So this is a view of the settings. We know that a lot of folks, especially in our insider community, they love to tinker with the guts of the system and to really customize it to make it their own. And so we have a few knobs and things that you can tweak for controller bar. And so what we wanted to do is we put those in the settings page called Quick Actions, and you can do things like, you know, if controller bar was not for you, then there's a setting to say that, you know, I need to go directly into game bar and I need to get to my screen capture. That's what I want to use it for. So we made a way for you to go do that. Or if you want your widgets and your social feed and all of the other options that's on game bar, but you want all of that stuff to show up on controller bar when you first launch controller bar, then we made that possible for you as well there. So please check out the settings page when you're working with, when you're trying out controller bar, and see if you can customize it to just the way you want to use it. And with that, yeah, look forward to following up on the chat and seeing all of the great comments and feedback and design ideas that we can bring into our product thinking going forward.
Excellent. So I've transitioned back to all of our smiling faces and the side of Brandon's shoulder. I like giving him grief. It's fun. It's the joy of having worked together for so long. So, lots of really good information. By the way, those PowerPoint slides were beautiful. That's the joy of having designers working on this stuff, because mine are just like plain white backgrounds with a title text box and a little word blob and maybe a picture thrown to the side. But you get the designers involved, and all of a sudden it's these beautiful, rich, robust, like clean, eloquent slides that like show detail and colors. And I'm like,
Jason, that's why you're supposed to use the design ideas button in PowerPoint. It makes everything beautiful without you having to have like the black text on white.
So,
well,
Jennifer, wait, while we were putting this together, I was pasting in images, and the design ideas was like, do you want your comp in a circle? How about these? And I was like, no, go away. I know that you're here for good reason, and I want you to know that I've got it. Like,
I don't got it, so I love the feature, but I can appreciate someone who
Design Center is for people like me.
No, after it shows up a few times, the team had eventually added like a "not right now" button, and I'm like, oh yes, that's for me. That's for me.
I envy your PowerPoint skills if you do not need it.
Oh my goodness. So let me take a moment, because as we've been chatting along, I have grabbed, by no means that I was able to grab everything, but I grabbed several comments, and we're going to go through some questions and stuff here as well. But some of these comments I would love for, our guests, right? I would love the four of you to hear some of this, because this is direct end user feedback in real time, right? This is unfiltered, but it's all really, really good stuff. So I'm just going to read a few of these, because it's an underpinning, it's a highlight of how much work you've put in here. Wow, this looks so much better. I love how controller bar works. The UI looks so clean. Lots of color in the UI, which changes the look and feel. It's awesome. This is such a useful feature. I love the minimalism. I love how it detects game launchers. That's pretty cool. I use the game bar to make desktop videos to show people how to do things, and the controller to get me there quickly. Comment about using integration with Steam. It's nice to have this taken so seriously. I don't need a keyboard to run all my games. those are the ones. Those are just the ones that I grabbed as I was kind of trying to copy and paste pretty quickly as chat's flying by as we're going through this. Along the way, I did grab a couple questions that showed up. I think Brandon answered them in chat, but I just want to make sure because flipping back and forth between computers or whatnot, I don't get to see everything, unfortunately. So one question was, is the controller bar fixed in its location on the screen, or can you move it?
It is currently fixed.
Okay. All right.
But like I think somebody else had called out earlier in our stream that use the feedback button because we actually go through and see those things. So user feedback is one of the indicators that we're looking for, not only for controller bar but for game bar and the Xbox app as well.
And real quick, since we're on the topic of feedback, where in the feedback hub, so which category and context should someone use if they would like to file feedback?
That's a great question. I don't remember.
No, it's totally fine. I'm actually pulling it up right now.
In the blog post, we highlight this. In the blog post, it's just under gaming and Xbox game bar.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Brandon, that was one of the fun things we started doing back during some self-hosting efforts in the back, and I love that it carried over into the external-facing things. One of those good lessons we learned internally, bring it external, makes life a little bit easier for the users. So
I'll put the blog post in the chat again.
Thank you, very much appreciated.
I just got that. We do read that feedback, so please file the feedback. We love it.
I think Susan submitted this question. Can you flip to another game with the controller bar? Does it close the first game and then open the second one?
That is a great question. We thought about that, and we had explored, the closing of the games. So yes, you can flip from one game to another game because you can, if they're both in your MRU, you can effectively use it as a switcher like that. We do not close your games for you. That's not something that Windows does. Imagine if we just shut down your game and you hadn't saved it. That would be a disaster. So you wouldn't thank us for it. So if you're out there and you've got a really powerful machine and you want to multi-instance your games, we'll use that MRU and switch games. If you want to shut them down, file it. I think that's a feedback item that we like to think through, how to close a game with a controller.
I'm gonna slightly genericize if I'm making up. I think I'm making up words again. I'm gonna make this question a little more generic to get to the root of what this user is asking. Is this going to work with games from all game launchers, or is it just going to be specific production companies or game studios?
Right now, it works with all games that are running and installed locally on Windows, and that's where we're starting from, and we'll see where we go. But all game launchers running locally.
Awesome. I'm scrolling back up to see Brandon, Jen, did anybody else catch questions that I did not catch along the way? It's interesting because during the webcast, sometimes we get tons of questions and not a lot of comments. But today it's been a ton of comments and just a few questions, which goes
most
to...
Most of the comments I saw were just all like, yeah. There was a hey, can we get together and play Fortnite as a Windows Insiders crew? I've never played Fortnite before, I have to confess. I'm not good with real-time games. Panic! No one wants me on that team.
Jennifer, hot take, but Stardew Valley is a game.
I love Stardew Valley. I like a lot of games, but yeah.
I think that's a really worthwhile point too. I don't know, it's controversial, but you're a gamer if you're playing mobile games, if you're playing Bejeweled, if you're playing Solitaire. That's part of gaming, and it serves a different purpose. Game designers are so talented at being able to create these really iterative loops. Some games that people play all the time are just easy. Like after they've learned how to play the game, it's easy for them to come back in and play round after round, but then they're using the game as a social lubricant mostly. It's like, instead of going to the bar, I'm just going to go turn on my PC, go play this game, and make sure that I'm joining all my friends. And that's the way that I'm going to spend 2.5 hours of my life, is just going through round after round, clearing a whole bunch of levels with my friends. And it's social. It's not like there are people who gatekeep, but I'm personally not one of them. And I think that there's so much fun to be had in games, no matter how you want to play, whether that be with controller or mouse and keyboard, because that's another hot take. Like, even bringing this to Windows is like such a hot take for such a large percentage of gaming.
Actually, it's kind of funny, like using the controller on PC as a whole. Like, I much prefer using a controller over using the keyboard to play games. I just what was the game? Ori? I found it so much easier to use with a controller than I do with the key commands.
Yeah, I love.
It just felt more natural.
Ori, right? It's like nice, beautiful blue. It's like a platformer, so you like jump around a lot. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that game. It's so gorgeous. It's so gorgeous.
And sad. It's sad. Bring some tissues.
No spoilers, but yeah.
That's what
I mean, it's in the very beginning
while I'm playing a video game.
I think it's.
I realize that, again, a little off topic here, but it's interesting the point you made about the different types of gamers, and I won't go too far off track with this, but even as one person who likes to play games, me sitting down between the time commitment or the mental space that I'm in when I'm playing, I'm doing something very different if I'm playing an old school game like Counter-Strike versus sitting up to play 30 minutes or an hour of chess, or if I'm sitting there goofing around playing like Wordament, right? Usually Wordament I end up killing 3 or 4 hours because I'm on an airplane flight and you don't have to have an internet connection to play it. It's different things that I'm doing in each one of these spaces. And so I'm going back to the crux of what controller bar represents for like me as an individual, right? Like, I'm doing something, and whether I'm transitioning, I'm done working, now I'm going to go switch, from work life to personal life, I'm going to go goof off for a couple hours, or hey, I'm stopping to eat lunch and I've got 5 or 10 minutes to go do something, let me grab my controller and sit here while I'm eating my sandwich, and I'm going to play a quick game that's, like I said, 5 or 10 minutes, and then it's done, and then I switch right back into work mode again, and I'm right back at it. And it doesn't matter which one of those, because this tool lets you do both of those so seamlessly, because it's adapting to what you're attempting to do. It's not trying to guide your actions based upon guess of intent. It's like, the user's doing this, we're going to enable this very quickly and in a very lightweight way.
Yeah, I just want to +1 all of that, and I think that that's back to this crew. We came at it from completely different perspectives. So the Windows team is usually very much isolated in doing their Windows stuff to make sure that it functions, that everybody's getting what they need, and so having an entire team dedicated from Windows to focus on gaming has been a delight for us. And so then we're like, oh, we love players, let's talk more about what people want to do. And this collaboration was just about making it as seamless as possible from the Windows side to make sure that gaming was easy and effortless for any input that somebody would choose. And I think that it's like you were saying earlier, it looks so simple. It's like, oh, look, there's just 6 icons with a back button, but it was so challenging to make sure that we just got it right,
Absolutely. And it goes back to, when you brought up the presentation at the very beginning and you played that short clip, and it was like, here it is. It's like, cool, that's super simple. And then all we've done since then is talk about the unique, the aspects of it, how it connects into the OS, what it does for users, the design that went into it, the number of thought, the taking in the feedback, how that's being incorporated. We've covered all of this stuff from a bar. And I remain eternally grateful and extremely humbled by having feature teams come onto these webcasts and describe the work that they're doing, because all of these things collectively drive these experiences for users all across the globe. And I don't have any other better way of summing it up other than saying thank you. Not only thank you for making the time to come and present and share this today, but thank you for all the hard work you're doing day in and day out, for what you have done so far, for what users can go and experience today. Plus, who knows what's on the horizon? I'm sure you've got something else up your sleeves. I see all your smiling faces together, and I see the smirks, so I know that there's something, but I'm not even going to ask you about it because I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble, because I don't need Amanda to be like, no more webcasts.
I have the global mute button ready just in case. You never know. So thank you guys for joining, though. It's been super awesome. This is a really cool topic, and I can't wait to read more of the comments too.
It's indeed. So with that, we're gonna wind down here. We're gonna do a few quick housekeeping notes. So again, Andrew, Dorothy, Janaea, Jasmine, thank you so much for being here. Jen, Brandon, and Amanda, I'm gonna throw us back on screen for just a moment. As I mentioned at the beginning of the webcast, build started today. If you look in chat, I am typing it right now, aka.ms/build. It's
You're
that
such
simple.
a loud typer, Jason.
It's that keyboard. Every webcast that I use, people are like, oh my goodness, it's so loud. And it's also quite literally like 6 inches from my microphone. So if you are a developer or you are at all interested about what is being announced at Build, it's actually the same keyboard Brandon has, except for his is further from his mic apparently. That or he's muted, one of the two. Please check out that link. If you haven't registered, go and register. It's absolutely free. If you've missed a session that happened this morning, such as the keynote or any of those first sessions that kicked off, there will be video on demand, so you can go back and watch those. So check it out, dig in. And of course, if you haven't used Controller Bar, or if you have, and if you have feedback, please send that our way. One last time, I will drop in the link to the podcast from back in the day. I say back in the day because it was from April of last year, so just over a year ago. If you want to check that out, is some of the initial insights into bringing gaming from Xbox onto the PC. That link is there. Brandon shared the link to the blog post that has the controller bar, kind of the screen grabs, as well as the link to file the feedback. So check the chat for those. Yeah. Any parting words, Jen, Amanda, Brandon? Anything as we wrap up?
All I can think of is that the quote, which is something like, when we all play, we all win. And this is just a piece of that. So, yay.
I'm just thinking about how we're going to bring this to our next team game night in a different sort of way, and maybe we can capture some of it and share it. You can see how really competitive we get after the camera goes off.
I'm not sure I want that recorded.
Play Minecraft Dungeons. Let Brandon kill some stuff.
I went into our Minecraft realm, Jen, and a bunch of zombies got into my house, and I was sad. They ransacked the place.
You're supposed to put the flames up so the zombies don't come in, Brandon.
I didn't know that. I don't know these things.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you guys for both watching and for our presenters today. It's been a really great time. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you again to all the presenters. Thank you to the usual crew who's on the webcast. And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. I hope you enjoyed this feature. I hope you enjoy Build. And again, keep the feedback coming. You can connect with us at answers.microsoft.com. We have the Windows Insider forum there. You can connect with us on Twitter at Windows Insider. There's also a Facebook page. Go look up Windows Insider Program. You can hit us up there. And of course, we have the YouTube channel that you are checking in now. There's constant content being shown on there for features, functionality, and then just cool behind the scenes stuff. So stay tuned there for more along the way. With that, we will wrap. We will catch you next month. So stay tuned to the newsletter that's going to come out, as well as to social. We'll announce the date and topics for those along the way. And with that, until next time.